While perhaps most well known for his work on history-shaping heroes who arise in times of trouble and discontent to shape their world, the lesser men of quality, who are not necessarily world-shaping, but are essential to a functioning civilization, also came under Carlyle's microscope. While the idea of poor governors, talking shops, and sham captains appear as a recurring trend in his thinking, he pays particular attention to the idea in the Downing Street chapter of Latter-day Pamphlets. His fundamental contention is that the government has abandoned the task of governing for which it is charged, and has instead become a mere forum for debating the matters of the day. Every sort of question, except the question of what will become of England. All the while, the problems of the age went, and indeed go, unremedied. His suggestion is quite simple. Appoint capable governors who are empowered with the ability to act as they see fit, without the necessity of constantly having to respond to the demands and questioning of Parliament, and without having to answer to them. In so doing, a man of action, rather than a man of words alone, can do the job. This is the ideal, but pitfalls do exist. Most glaringly, how to select the right man for the job. Certainly not someone embedded in the parliamentary system, being that their only competence is in corruption, debate, and spin. I suspect little has changed in that regard, though the opening up of the opportunity to take part in the corruption has been widened since his day, so it is now not merely the preserve of the rich to do the plundering. Even when Parliament did and does stumble on the problem and try to enact, or more accurately discuss, constitutional reform, little changes, because even if they are successful, they will only be shuffling the same unsuitable men around the system. This in itself is another point more thoroughly touched on by de Maistre, but Carlyle too emphasises that no constitution, no matter how apparently perfect and well loved, will remove the need for capable governors. So good men are needed. There is no substitute, and they are to be found outside Parliament. But where to find them, and how to appoint them? Carlyle suggests that even taking somebody at random would have better results than his contemporary system, and little has changed there. But it's still not ideal. He does insist, though, that the candidate must be extracted from the whole population, not merely a subsection like the nobility or members of Parliament, and in this way it might be considered more democratic, somewhat ironically. Specifically, this is because, contrary to even our present system at time of writing, men will not be constrained by the means of their birth, nor their rhetorical skills, from achieving high office. Instead, they might be measured by the qualities and merits which would best serve them in their role. But the party to select the governor must themselves have the correct eye to identify talent, and do so honestly. To have the best chance of this, Carlyle suggests that only nobility or royalty will do, because only they will truly be able to recognise the nobility in others. This could perhaps be likened to an adage that appears elsewhere in management, that first-rate managers will hire first-rate subordinates, but second-rate managers will hire third-rate subordinates. This is largely, no doubt, due to the inferior's concern that the subordinate might outshine the manager, and make him look bad by comparison if he knows he cannot keep pace. This might at first seem to contradict his railing elsewhere against degenerate aristocracies, but it can perhaps be made sense of in the context that many of these criticisms are typically directed in retrospect against aristocracies who failed to avert revolution, and at all other times, nobility and royalty stayed true to its roots, of being a collection of many of the best and most noble men. He is moderated slightly by the assertion that one generation of men will struggle to achieve many great things all at once in the spheres of conquest, administration and stabilization, or development and restoration. Typically, they may only achieve one, or possibly two, and leave the rest to future generations. So it was in his day that previous generations had one empire, now it fell to his contemporaries to stabilize and administer it. He believed them to be failing at that time, and the relative transience of the project is perhaps testament to the fact that they never did succeed. The final, perhaps still relevant warning of Carlyle comes as a caution, for men of his day and since, perhaps by disposition or perhaps in response to the dire state of governance, instead take pride in being governed as little as possible. This is, perhaps, not the height of folly, but close to it, as all men must find themselves governed, and a good government does much to augment the progress of a people. But even more pressingly, perhaps, no civilization survives the neglect or making an enemy of its great men.